In plain and uncompromising language, Lumumba argues that France did not anticipate the rapid political realignment unfolding in West Africa. He says Paris now faces this moment while being, in his words, economically weak at home and socially unsettled by rising tensions around immigration. He paints a picture of European cities from Marseille to other urban centers, where diasporas from Algeria, Morocco, Senegal, Guinea, and other African countries are visible and vocal. This visibility, he suggests, is a mirror held up to France's own past and present policies. The core of his message is simple but sharp. In the former colonies that Paris once believed it controlled, a new generation has risen. Lumumba lists Guinea, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso among places where young leaders and societies are reassessing, rewriting, or outright revoking agreements signed with France. He highlights Niger's uranium, historically exported to fuel European reactors, and says the new political reality means France cannot take it as before. In a memorable metaphor, he claims Paris is losing food that was already in its mouth and does not know how to respond. From there, Lumumba raises the stakes. He argues that without Africa there is no France, going so far as to predict that, absent the economic ties forged through the colonial and post-colonial era, France could become one of Europe's poorer countries within 2 decades. He describes the moment as existential for Paris, life and death, and declares with rhetorical flourish that the stars indicate France's goose is cooked. Lumumba also revisits history. Unlike the British model of indirect rule, he says France pursued assimilation, aiming to make colonial subjects into French men and French women. He recalls school parades where children in places like Senegal, Mali, Upper Volta, now Burkina Faso, Togo and Benin recited the creed that our ancestors were the Gauls, and he invokes French institutions, the Sorbonne among them, as symbols of a system that trained a select few to become total French in mind and manner. He argues that this policy left a legacy of cultural control that the new generation is now openly rejecting. Let's listen to his speech and get back.
France did not see what is happening in West Africa coming. So they find themselves at a time when they are very weak economically, when at home the population of immigrants is growing bigger and bigger. You go to cities such as Marseille, you find Algerians, you find Moroccans, you find Senegalese, you find Guineans, you find Burkinabe, and things are not happening as they used to be then in the former colonies that you thought you are controlling. A breed of young men and women begin rising. They rise in Guinea-Conakry, and the first thing they do is they say, we abolish all the agreements that exist between us and France. They rise in Burkina Faso and they say the same thing. They rise in Mali and they say the same thing. They rise in Niger, which has been providing you with uranium. Now you can't take it. I think they cannot take it because they are losing food which has been inside of their mouth, and they do not know how to behave. As somebody once said, without Africa, there is no France. Without our former colonies, give France only 20 years, and it will be one of the poorest nations in the continent of Europe. And that is going to happen. And they are resisting because for them this is life and death. But the stars, which I can now perfectly read, are telling me that their goose is cooked, and very well cooked. They were the worst. Number one, unlike the British, who simply were interested in your resources and therefore engaged in what was called direct rule, the French wanted to assimilate you. So their policy was assimilation. They came to the colonies and they wanted to convert you into Frenchmen and French women. And in school parades in the colonized parts of the world by the French, like Senegal, like Mali, like Burkina Faso, which was then Upper Volta, like Togo and Benin and Suriname, during the parade in the morning, people used to recite our ancestors, the Gauls. A black pupil saying that their ancestors were the Gauls. They wanted you to speak French.
Lumumba's remarks are most concrete when he speaks about uranium and agreements. Uranium is the kind of mineral that concentrates power and fear in equal measure. If it flows in predictable ways to predictable places, the status quo hums along. If that flow changes, the hum becomes a rattle. By saying Paris cannot take it as before, Lumumba is pressing the point that resource pathways are political choices, not natural laws. Then there are the agreements, the defense pacts, the training compacts, the concessions, the protocols and memoranda that knit economies and militaries together. According to Lumumba, some countries are now tearing up what he describes as unequal arrangements. Lumumba's historical critique deserves attention because it reaches into identity, language and the psychology of rule. Perhaps the most controversial line in the speech is the prediction that without Africa and its former colonies, France would within 20 years become one of Europe's poorest countries. Lumumba makes the argument to dramatize dependency, to suggest that Paris has drawn strength from the continent in ways that are now visible, measurable, and politically exposed. You've been watching Pulse of Africa. If this report helped you understand what Professor PLO Lumumba said and what it could mean for West Africa and France, support our work. Please subscribe to Pulse of Africa, like this video, and share it with someone who cares about Africa's future.